How long is your game? How much time does it take to beat it? If it's too short, you'll upset your players and get negative reviews. If it's too long, your scope might fly out of control and you'll never ship. So how long should your game be? Let's talk about the game time ramp up.
You're listening to Make the Game with Matt Hackett.
So how long should your game be? The answer, of course, is it depends. It especially depends on your stage of development and genre. Let's take a closer look at prototype, demo, Steam minimum, baseline game, and genre expectation. Starting off with prototype, it's particularly hard to nail down how long a game should be in its prototype phase. What are you trying to accomplish with this early version of your game? Are you trying to answer a question, test a theory, prove a concept, or, just see if people like it? I'd be wary of prototypes that fizzle out after just a few minutes. Maybe there's something super engaging about the game at first, but if it can't scale to become a generous chunk of gameplay, it might not be a great concept for an entire game. Your prototype should be able to entertain your player for at least a few minutes to prove it's a good one, shouldn't it? It doesn't have to feel like a full meal, but it should at least be like a hearty snack. For that reason, I'd recommend shooting for a minimum of about 5 minutes to prove a prototype has potential. A demo is the perfect opportunity to give your player enough, but leave them wanting more. My gut tells me that a demo should be, at least 30 minutes, but probably doesn't need to be a whole hour long. Like, come on, every game is so different, it's difficult to nail down a global general demo time, right? But let's look at some analytics from Chris Zukowski's What is a Good Median Playtime for a Demo? Chris has organized these demo times by tier: bronze at 7 minutes, silver at 18 minutes, gold at 38 minutes, and diamond at 65. Obviously, we want our game to be top tier, but let's keep things reasonable and shoot for a solid score within the upper range. 30 minutes might be a bit too big of an ask for some situations, and like I mentioned, 60 minutes plus feels unnecessarily long to me. So let's shoot for 25 to 45 minutes for our demos. Next, let's talk about the Steam minimum. Steam is such an important place for a lot of us indie game devs. This one's pretty straightforward. Steam famously provides a 2-hour refund window. When you buy a game on Steam, you've got full access to it for 14 days or 2 hours of total gameplay, whichever comes first. You could refund anytime within this window. Since Steam works this way, it's best for games published on Steam to be well over that 2-hour refund window. Steam tells us exactly how long we've played our games, so when Steam players get even a whiff of an ending when approaching that 2-hour limit, they're sometimes tempted to bail and refund the game. If you want to simply not worry about that particular problem on Steam, your best bet is to make your game at least 2 hours long. Okay, next let's talk about just a baseline game. And really this one's completely up to you. It depends so much on what kind of game you're making, how much you want to charge for it, and an infinite list of other variables. To help you land on a number, think about questions like, how long do you feel like most games should be? How long was the last game you played? How long is your favorite game? When players complain about game length, it generally feels like the complaints are that the games are too short, right? But I've also seen some fatigue about how long games have gotten, which is likely exacerbated by the record-breaking number of new games being released. Some games feel too short at 7 hours long. Others feel too long at 3. So of course, there's no perfect answer, but let's start with 5 hours as a minimum. That's long enough to completely defeat that 2-hour refund window and long enough to put a big dent in any day of your life spent playing. For an upper window, let's simply double that time. This puts a baseline game at around 5 to 10 hours long, and you should probably be fine. Next, let's talk about genre, because otherwise these numbers are laughably irrelevant to particular games. Like, RPGs should be really long, right? My favorites growing up included the Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy series, where individual games would often brag about requiring 40 or more hours to complete. A casual playthrough of the original Legend of Zelda could be done in just 10 hours, and most of the Zelda games kind of stayed around that general window for a while, but the later ones exploded in how long they take to beat. Some games, especially on Steam, are super deep and offer thousands of hours of gameplay. But do you need all that? What about Flappy Bird, or what about Tetris? Just because I can speedrun the original Castlevania in under 15 minutes, does that somehow make it a lesser platformer game? Nope. Either way, it's good to know about the genre you're entering into. Players will have certain expectations and won't be happy if they're unmet. Here's how to find the expected time for your game's genre. Search to find your genre on Steam. Find the games that are reasonably similar to yours. Read the positive reviews and note how long they played. Read the negative reviews and note how long they played. And then use this info to get a feel for how long your game should be to get good reviews. There are tools you could use like VG Insights, Steam Spy, or Game Data Crunch. What's nice about making a game in a genre that you already play is that you have some data just by being a fan. For example, if I wanted to make a violent overhead action game like Hotline Miami, I've already got a good feel for how long my game should be. I loved Hotline Miami and only played it for about 8 hours, so there you go. If I made a game in that genre, 8 hours doesn't sound too bad, does it? I could make that. Now that you have a general feel for how long your game should be, you're going to want to track that in your game so you can see how you're doing. It's easy to track the elapsed time and display that information in your game. You can see some examples of how to do it in Unity and also HTML5 JavaScript on my blog at vladriat.com. So how long should your game be? It depends. And, it's however long you want. Who cares? But the answer is probably somewhere between 5 minutes and 40 hours. Good luck and have fun. Everyone's game is different and your mileage will certainly vary, but here are some general guidelines for you. At the prototype stage, make sure you got at least 5 solid minutes of gameplay. At the demo stage, you want to shoot for 25 to 45 minutes. If you're going to launch on Steam, make sure you at least hit that 2-hour window. Any kind of baseline game, 5 to 10 hours is usually pretty safe, but look into your genre because that's going to matter the most on how long your game should be. Thanks for watching. Before you go, support these videos. Like, subscribe, and pick up a copy of my solo game dev book, How to Make a Video Game All by Yourself.